Hi, Julia.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
Doing? How are you?
Quite good.
Right. Ask you a question. Can you hear any music in the background?
No.
Okay, so I just need to shut this off. Right. So first of all, congratulations for having passed your exams. I know you were wishing to get a much higher, no, not much higher, just a bit higher band in writing,
Yeah.
but it's amazing what you got. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the score and the band you got?
Okay. I got an 8, which is a good mark. And I got a 9 in the reading.
Wow.
Don't remember
That means
if
you didn't make any mistakes.
no. Uh, don't remember if I got an 8 or an 8.5 in the speaking.
Right.
Sup-
Wow.
Surprisingly, I got a 7.5 in the listening. I didn't expect
Okay.
it. I expected a much higher score, actually.
Right.
And a 7.5 in the writing.
Right. Was it a 7.4 or 6.5? I think it was 6.5, wasn't it?
6.5, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, well, first of all, it's a very good band. Many people would just wish to have that, but I understand that you wanted to get 7.5 as a least all across the four
No,
skills.
I needed a 7 overall, so just half a
Right.
point more.
Okay. Okay. So, many people are doing the exams and they would like to know what is it that you found out that perhaps would be useful for them to
Cool.
apply as knowledge because you've been through the process, yeah?
Mhm.
So, what is it that you think, what are the do's and the don'ts in this case?
Okay. I think that the do is to keep focus on the exam and be sure of your time.
Right.
Because
So let's
while at home you have all, yeah, basically I used to do it trying to getting a look to the clock. In the exam it's different because you have anxiety, you so it's going to takes you longer to complete the task. For example, I usually did the reading part in 40 minutes, more or
yeah.
less, and it took me 1 hour, an entire hour to complete it.
Okay.
And I think that this is especially important in the writing because in the writing you need to left a minimum of 5 minutes. It's better if you have 7 or 8 minutes to check your work because
So,
I found lots of mistakes.
okay, let's go through this step by step. So
Yeah,
first
okay.
of all, you said reading, you were excellent in the exam training. You were taking 40 minutes and you were making next to nothing as mistakes in the training, right?
Yeah,
But as you get to the exam, so you're very confident, you know that you can do this in 40 minutes, literally you blow it out of the water. No
yeah,
problem. You go in there, you don't take 40 minutes, you take 1 hour.
yeah.
So where is it that you lost, let's say, those 20 minutes?
Well, I think that the level of the reading was a little bit higher than the one that I used to practice at home. Maybe it was more similar to the book 13 and 14 than
Right,
to the previous one.
right.
So if I can give you an advice, just trying to keep those book for the week before the exam. So you will practice a higher level and you will prepared for that. There were questions that were, I don't know, I found that they were not so clear that you have to, it was not the information just in the text. You needed
Right.
to think about it.
So you had to kind of inference, um, and you had to rely
Yeah,
on your own
right.
judgment, and it wasn't very clear in the text.
Yeah, yeah.
So did that
What's
require
not
more
written
time?
in the test exactly as it was written in the question. You needed to think about it and to get that information from the
Right.
test by, you know, thinking.
So the text was harder, That's the thing. And the
No,
questions,
I don't think the text was harder. Just the question were
right?
harder
The
than the one
questions
that I
were
used to do.
needed more thinking, let's say.
Yeah,
Okay. And they were similar to the later books, like the
yeah,
14, 15 book. Okay.
yeah.
So the do's is what is the do's in this case, in your opinion, in the reading? What do we need to do? Practice with the last books, you said,
Yeah,
the
practice with the last books. Practice in reduce the time that it takes to do that, because in the exam it would take you longer because lots
so
of factors, because it could be more difficult, because you can be nervous, because for example, I read the reading is the first one that you do.
right, so you're
So
fresh.
yes, you're fresh, but at the same time, I was not enough relaxed
Oh,
when I started. So I read the first paragraph and I didn't got anything from that. So I went on and then go back to it again.
okay.
Because
And
I mean, while in my case, for example, if I see that I'm confident with the text, that the questions are easy, that you can answer to them, then you feel more relaxed and you can go back and check the first part that maybe was not that good at first.
okay. So having said that, you still got 9 in reading. So that's
Yeah,
down to a lot of training, right? So what is the
yeah.
what do we need to avoid?
Well, I think that don't it could be about the not given question, when you have to say true or false or not given.
Right,
Just focus if the information is not given, or if it's given in another way.
right.
Read
Okay.
very well the text. Read the text very well.
So don't read the text too quickly so you don't understand it. Make sure you
Yeah.
read the text within the time. Did you find the
And the
text?
second one was to read, in my case, I always read the question before reading the test.
Yeah.
So you already know what you're looking for while reading, and you
Did
can
that?
directly underline the information in your head, because of course you don't have the possibility to underline because it's computer based.
Did you find that useful as a technique
Yes,
to read
in my
the text?
case, it was fundamental. Read the question before and knowing what you're looking for in the text.
Right. Let's go into the listening where you think you got 7.5, which is
Yeah.
nonetheless very good. What are the things that we need to watch out for? What is it that we need to watch out for?
I have to say that in my case, the exam was computer based.
Yeah.
And in my case, maybe this was the problem, because at home I only practice it with pen and paper. And
Mm,
I'm pretty fast in writing with pen and paper, but not as fast with the keyboard.
right.
So
Mm,
you need to practice with a computer. Because, for example, while you're writing on your keyboard, you can miss something because the tracks goes on, of course. So if I can say something, just don't focus on the spelling at first. Just write the words as you listen to it, because you have all the time to go back and correct the spelling.
you see,
If
that's
you think if you think
sorry.
that you're not, yeah, if you think that it's not written well, go on. Otherwise, you will miss all the parts of the track.
So that's very useful advice because so many people wonder and they ask me, beforehand, what happens if they miss an answer? What if you miss an answer totally? You didn't get it. What should you do in that case?
It didn't happen to me.
Right.
So
But I mean, did you forget
it
about
was
it?
just that was giving me two things that were quite similar one to
Mm,
another. So
right.
I listened to the first one and I thought that was the answer,
Mhm.
but later on I I listened to the second one, but I wasn't able to get it. So I wrote the first one, but maybe that was one of my mistakes. So one important thing is to listen to all the phrase before writing the answer, because
Okay.
sometimes it can give you two information that are very similar one to another, and you can got the first one and miss the second.
So you can actually that's something that people don't realize, that is important to understand, that in questions you have a distractor. Basically, they give you two
Yeah.
answers. One of them is wrong, and if you're clever enough to find out exactly which one is wrong, then you're good, because the question is supposed to be challenging. It can't be just a simple,
Yeah,
what time does the
course.
bus leave? And you just have one answer, which is
Yeah.
like easy to understand. No, you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 different answers, and you're going to have to choose the right one in between.
Yeah.
That's the practice you need to do, because in real life, this is what happens. People give
Yes,
you.
but in that case, I was focused on writing it on the keyboard, and
Yeah.
I missed the second one. So this was
Right.
definitely a mistake.
Okay.
Another thing is that I don't know, if there is an exercise when you have to match, for example, names of different restaurants with the features of the restaurant, Okay?
Nasty.
So,
That is a nasty exercise, because your brain has to work at multiple levels. So it's
yeah.
like almost multitasking.
Yeah, but while I was doing it at home, you had just to read the letter. I mean, restaurant name, a restaurant name with the letter A, B, or C. While in the exam, you basically have to click on the answer and with your mouse put it beside the question, basically.
Oh, that's not good. Well, it is okay if you're. I mean, I challenge anyone. Okay, anyone. I mean, even mother tongue speakers, to do that exercise in an exam condition. I think everybody would feel
Yeah.
nervous. And
Because you can maybe miss it with the mouse, don't click it, don't get it at first, so you have to do it again, and at the same time you have to keep listening. So this was a bit, and I always practice with pen and paper, just writing the letter.
just makes it
And
harder.
you cannot do it at the exam because you have a little piece of paper and a pen, but there is not a letter
So it's just
beside
pointless
any
to
answer.
use a pen. It's just pointless to use a pen.
Yeah, basically pointless. Was
Okay.
useful only during the writing for me.
Right. Okay. So that's listening, and many people don't understand this when they start the IELTS course, that it's only once that you listen. So
Yeah.
you don't have a chance to go back. And, so in a way, you need to use your brain almost like a recorder and just replay the information in your head, whatever's been said. So if you're able to, for example, if there's a number, and this is an exercise that we have in the IELTS course that we've prepared, I'll leave the link in the description. If you can remember the number has been said to you and write the numbers, not straight away, but like a few seconds later, that is very good practice, because it's kind of like you're replaying the sound in your head. It could be useful for spellings,
For numbers, telephone numbers.
yeah. But of course, if you have a question where you need more intensive listening, that's not going to help.
No.
Because in that case, you just need to understand the focus, the point, the crux of the question, which it depends.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
In my case, I think that the main problem was the use of the computer, because I always got in the practice 8.5 or 9 in the listening. So the score that I got in the exam was lower by a lot. So the point is to practice with the computer.
I believe that that computer is a big change. Increasingly, people, either the examining boards are introducing computers, but they don't take into consideration the difficulty the students come across when they are moving from paper to computer. But I think it's down to the preparation center now to implement those changes to make sure that the students get some kind of practice. So it's really important. Okay, so let's go to the writing. 1 hour paper. What advice would you give us in terms of what to do?
Well, I don't know, because I didn't get the score that I wanted. So maybe I'm not the right person to give advices about this, but well, I can just say to practice a lot, because the the tasks that are given to you are very similar to the ones that you can find in the books.
Okay.
So if you are prepared to them, you will probably get a good mark.
Yeah. But in terms of actually executing the task in the exam, what difficulties did you come across? Time, planning, what happened?
Well, maybe it was the planning, because I wrote something with pen and paper and trying to follow the scheme, but while writing, I changed it by a lot. So maybe this wasn't that good. You really need to,
That's maybe that's a good thing if you have a better idea, like, you realize your plan wasn't good, but if it's asking for trouble, basically. If you change the plan, it's asking for trouble. But was that the reason, do you think, that you didn't achieve the band you wanted? Nonetheless, you got almost C1, which is 6.5. But what was the reason, you reckon? Can you pinpoint that reason?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe sometimes, maybe I did some spelling mistakes.
Right.
So always be sure of your work and
To
leave
proof check
the
it,
right time, for proof checking. Because
because
while
you
you're
will be,
writing very fast, because you can see the time on the computer, so you're working faster, you can do lots of mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have the word count on the screen?
Yes, you have the word count, so this is
That
not
was good.
actually a problem.
Sorry?
It was not a problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So did you have I mean, we talked about it before the exam. We said, about 2-3 minutes planning, 30 minutes writing, and 5 minutes proof checking your work, making sure that you didn't make any spelling mistakes. Did you go through, did you have those 5 minutes at the end?
Yes, even more than 5 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had plenty of time to check your work.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So
that it usually didn't happen to me while I practiced at home. I always finish the text just 3 or 4 minutes before the time, but I wanted to leave the right time to proof checking. So, but I don't know, something went wrong. So,
well, yeah, went wrong according to the high grade you wanted. Of course, it did.
yeah.
But you still got 6.5, which is pretty high. But in order to get better, we would need to work on possibly increasing the quality of writing itself, because if you finish in time, then that's it. So the advice would be, in this case, make sure that you plan, that you follow your plan, and you check your work. The don'ts, obviously, in this case, is don't misread the question. I know Julia didn't, because she's very good, but you can easily misread the question and not complete the task, where they ask you to do several things, and you have to make sure that you answer all the questions. So the last part was,
for example, it's very useful in the IELTS online course that you have all the kind of questions that could be on the task. So focus on it, because depending on the answer, on the questions that are given to you, you're supposed to write something instead something else. So this was quite useful.
Yeah, be mindful of the what is being asked of you. That is the very first thing. The last thing, speaking. I know you got really high band, but what advice would you give us?
Well, I have to say that even if I was quite confident with the speaking, with my mask on, her mask on, and the glass between me and her, was quite tough to listen to her. So sometimes I miss something that she was telling to me. So more than once I needed to ask her to repeat.
Yeah.
And of course, I was worried that this could make me lose marks. But I asked it to the assistant, and she told me that because of the COVID-19 and because of the mask and so on, if you're asking the examiner to repeat the question, you won't lose marks. So my advice would be definitely ask them to repeat if you didn't get it, because it's definitely worse if you answer
The wrong question.
the wrong question. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even when COVID is finally over, you can still wear a mask and say you have some kind of a problem and still ask questions. So that'll always be the good case. So ask for them to repeat. What kind of short answers did you give? Did you try to implement some of the techniques we were talking about, giving short answers, mixing up your answers?
Yes, mixing up the answers, because sometimes they wanted shortened one, and sometimes longer. In the first part, it was quite simple because they asked me about my hometown, about the facilities, and so on. So it's something that if you practice a bit, you have already seen. So nothing.
Abundantly, I suppose. But
Yeah.
these are first questions we prepare, right? So
Yeah, but usually the first part is always on the same topic. In my case, the first part was divided in two. So the first part was about my hometown.
yeah,
Then the second part was about intelligence. So when you
intelligence.
consider intelligence, yes, when you consider a person to be smart and clever.
Yeah,
And then it was the second part that was,
the long
basically
term that you had
similar.
to speak 2 minutes.
Yeah, you have to 2 minutes. And maybe I talked a
Any
little
advice?
less than they were expecting me to do, because the examiner asked me another question when I finished the things that I planned to say.
Okay. What advice would you give for the second part? I mean,
I think that for the second part, the most important thing is to read what you to read the question
yeah,
and make. So you have a pen and a paper, so
yeah,
write down all the point that you have to touch and you have to
right,
talk about, and
right,
be sure to answer to all of this. Otherwise, the examiner will ask you to, to complete your answer.
right. If the examiner is kind, because they can easily just say
Yeah,
thank you and give
thank
you bad
you.
marks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm pleased that you had a nice examiner who was
Yeah, no,
very
but in
helpful.
this case, I don't know, maybe I answered to all the
Right.
to all the questions, but maybe I talked less
Yeah.
than the examiner wanted.
So
So
in this case, the advice would be, in fact, I think what you're saying is to just don't answer the questions very quickly, but go
yeah,
into a little bit more detail about each of the
yes,
points.
going deeper in the
Yeah, add some
yeah,
ideas, add some extra thoughts, so
yes,
you can beef up the whole answer. It becomes bigger.
yeah.
You know, there are so many I mean, in English we say there are millions of ways, or so many ways to skin a cat. This is a terrible
Oh,
metaphor.
okay,
It means there's so many ways you
terrible.
can do something. Yeah. So
Hmm.
please don't skin a cat, because this is just a metaphor. It's an
Yeah,
idiom that it doesn't happen actually. So we don't want any cats, poor cats. So yeah, just go a bit more detailed. Talk about it a bit, a bit more. Make it a bit more interesting for the examiner to read, maybe. So sorry, to listen to.
yeah, to listen. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, and
Yeah.
trying to, yeah, smile in this case was
Yeah.
not because you
Did
have the
you?
mask,
Yeah.
but it's useful to make the examiner see that you're confident,
Mm,
that you're not afraid. So
yeah.
just trying to relax. Otherwise,
Right,
it
yes,
you
yeah.
will talk worse. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a double effect. You perform badly and you give the examiner the
The
impression that you're not
impression.
good.
Yeah.
So many times, like when you go to those, I mean, people, not everybody goes to discos. I certainly don't. But when you go to disco and you see somebody dressed up really nicely and they're making a few moves, you think, wow, he must be really good, but he might be a terrible dancer. But, you know, just because he's dressed up good um, or looks good or is confident, you think, yeah, you know, he's fine.
Yeah.
So confidence speaks volumes, actually. The last part 3, the hard questions. How did you manage those?
Yeah. Well, even in this case, I think that the advice is to go deeper. So just not to try to answer with just a sentence, but trying to analyze what is being asked. Yeah,
Right.
for example, in my case, there was one question that was not that clear, I think, because they were asking me, did you ever receive a text message that you didn't understand? And
Oh,
I was not quite sure of what they were asking me.
yeah.
But with the second question, they were asking me if what are the factors that influence communication through text messages instead of a phone call. So I think that they wanted
Very
to
good
know if,
question.
for example, the tone of the voice or the
Yeah,
attitude of
good
the
point.
person you're talking to. Yeah,
You
but
need
I
to,
didn't get it at first because the answer was, did you get a text message that you didn't understand? And
yeah.
yeah, I was struggling with that. So
Question was
if
very,
you're not sure, ask for to the examiner a moment to think about it.
yeah.
Just not rush into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Think
Also,
about it
you
well
can
and
ask
then
the examiner
answer.
to clarify, right? You can also say things like, "Do you mean I didn't understand the text in terms of his words or what the person meant?"
Yeah.
You could even
Okay.
ask the examiner to clarify because you are entitled to, you know, ask questions about the questions in that sense. Great. I mean, you did a great job, Julia, though. I
Yeah,
must admit.
one last thing that I wanted to
Yeah,
say is about time.
mm,
Because, for example, I was at the last question, I think it was the last question, I don't know, and I asked the examiner to repeat it, and
yeah.
she told me, sorry, the time is over. So basically, I didn't finish all the questions that she had for
Right.
me, but I think that this was not a problem, so don't worry about that because
Well, obviously it
I
wasn't because you got good marks, right?
yeah, so I don't think that that was a problem.
Yeah. You must understand that if the examiner interrupts you, it's only because they are working with certain
Yeah,
time conditions. They have 3 minutes for one part, for example, 4 minutes for another. So
exactly.
if you're asking a question, if something is happening, they will just say, "Look, okay, that's enough. Let's move on," because
Yeah,
they're happy with your answers. So
yeah.
just like it happened to Julia, you know, if it happens to you, don't worry about it. Don't let it get to you. Don't tear out
Mhm.
the air outside the classroom. Just don't worry about it because it happens. So this is the whole thing, the whole exam basically, and
Yeah,
exam itself is a different beast. You need to practice for the exam, and we did practice for the exam with Julia. How much did that help? The mock exam that we did, you know, with timed practice. How close was it to the exam? If it wasn't close enough, I think you
yeah,
mentioned that it wasn't close enough because obviously you don't have the nerves, the you know the pressure of the exam. But how close was it in the end?
I think that was very close. So the fact that you are in front of a computer or in front of a text and you know exactly, you have already seen it, you have the
Right,
impression that it's familiar to you, it's definitely easier. So you're not thinking, oh my God, I've never seen this, how can I manage it? You already know how to do this.
right.
So practice a lot, especially when the listening and the reading.
Yeah,
You can do it following your teacher's advice, but practice on your own and do lots of it. So
yeah,
when you're doing the test, it would seems to you that you're doing another mock exam,
yeah,
and you so
yeah.
and
Great.
try to focus on the exam because you cannot have anything with you, not a watch, not a bottle of water.
Not even
Uh,
a watch, because obviously smart watches can give you answers, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. And for example, I have a bottle, but it was not transparent.
So no tag, no label around the bottle.
Not only that, but in my case was a thermic bottle that helps you to maintain the water fresh
Yeah.
or hot, and
Yeah.
they didn't accept it.
Oh,
So I had no water with me.
very strict.
You cannot eat. You can go to the toilet if you want, but they're not going to give you extra time for that.
Mm.
So obviously you cannot do it during the listening, and you cannot doing it during the last 10 minutes of the writing and the reading. So if, for
Well, you're
example,
almost done.
you
Yeah.
finish and you want to go to the toilet, you cannot.
Right.
And there is not a break between each section. So
Oh,
you cannot go to the toilet between, I don't know, the listening and reading.
yeah. So
You,
I must highlight this. It must very much depends on the examining centers. Some have that kind of system that Julia sat through, which is in a way good because you get it over and done with very quickly.
yeah,
So, back to back, reading, writing, listening, speaking, done, out. Others have, you do reading, you get half an hour break, then you do. Maybe that's good because if you're thirsty, you want a toilet break, you can go. So I don't know. I think
yeah.
you should.
I think that you should practice and doing it, trying to doing without a break. So you will
Yeah,
be prepared and you won't be tired at the end of the last one.
yeah. I'll make sure you go to toilet beforehand.
Yeah,
You haven't got any tummy problems that requires urgent toilet visits,
yeah.
which would be very complicated in the IELTS exam
And
because
yeah,
you'll end
yeah,
up missing most of it. So, yeah, British exams are very strict. They are. I remember back at school, when we were when we had to go to toilet, they wouldn't give us extra minutes, and we had
yeah.
to.
No, okay. You're not going to have it.
No, it's much better in other countries.
So in my opinion, you need to eliminate all the extra factor that can in a sort of way influence your exam,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you have to be focused only on the exam.
The last question was it. I mean, I think you did not study the last day, yeah, the day before the exam. You just gave it a rest. Well, is it right,
No,
or you?
don't remember.
Because you don't want to be
Yeah,
going in.
maybe I watched some TV in
Mm.
English just
Yeah,
to, yeah,
it's a good idea not to overload your system the day before. Just
yeah,
give it a break. You don't need
definitely,
that. Brain is a
because you
muscle.
don't have information to learn by heart
Yeah, no,
that you have to
don't.
see the day before. So
No. Also, the nerves that Julia went through, those are quite common. It's a little bit of adrenaline which hits you, and in that very moment, you have to know that you won't be able to read or listen very well. So you have
yeah,
to, take control of your body, make sure you're trying to cope with it as well as you can. Whoever's done an exam, they know the feeling of the exam is like full adrenaline in your head running through your body. You can't. You feel as though you're going to explode. Your head is pounding. Some people have headaches and stuff. So, well, thanks very much, Julia, for this extended do's and don'ts. I hope that people will find it useful, and I hope that you can somehow get this. If you're going to do it again, focus on your writing and get it up and get it at least at 7.5. Is that what you needed? 7. Sorry, you said
7.
7. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Thanks very much again, Julia,
You're
and
welcome.
see you in the next video, maybe.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. So as I was saying, IELTS exam is quite hard. And as any exam that you're doing, you need to, take out all the variables. The variables are, I don't know how the exam works, or you need to practice with the computer if you're doing the computer-based. You need to get toilet trained. I suppose. If you're not allowed to go to toilet, you need to hold it up, go to toilet beforehand. If you're a coffee junkie, you need lots of coffees, drink them before you go into the exam. If you get hungry, eat before you go into the exam. So all these things matter because you're getting yourself ready. And at that point, there is no reason why you shouldn't do well. Above all, make sure you practice with the right level, because many times in the exam, the level is a little bit harder than the practice exams. For whatever reason, maybe in the exam, you're a bit nervous, everything looks difficult. That might be the case. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you're new. Thanks very much and see you in the next one. Bye for now.